Hi, welcome to Nina in the Kitchen, where today I'm honoring a few people actually have sent in requests for making a homemade croissant. What I'm doing is using European butter, and I have 1 pound of butter that I'm using for this recipe. That's 454 grams. And I have warm milk. This is 1 2/3 cup, 450 milliliters. And by warm, I mean about 90 degrees, which is 32 Celsius. And then I took 3 tablespoons out from one of these packages, which I've melted in here. So this whole thing is 90 degrees, and it's going into the stand mixer. This is 1/4 cup. It's 50 grams of sugar. That's going in. This is 4 teaspoons of instant yeast. Now we have to talk about flours. You can do a croissant with an all-purpose flour if you like, or you can do it totally with a bread flour. I like a croissant that is delicate, has a little chew, has a little aeration, and I find that the best thing to do is to mix the 2 flours. This is going to be a total half and half of 4 1/4 cups of flour. So that's going to be 301 grams of all-purpose flour, 301 grams on the bread flour. And I think the easiest way to go for this, because you can just throw it right in the bowl. Let's go 301, 602 on the... I'm going to just put the dough hook on here and stir this. So this is going to be stirred on low just to get everything introduced for 2 to 3 minutes, and then I'll up the speed, and for another minute I'll let it run at a medium speed, and then it will create a dough. In the meantime, I'm going to make the butter block, and I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. That looks like a beautiful dough. Really nice. The milk adds a little richness to it, and these croissants come out, they shatter when you bite into them, and then the inside is moist and creamy and just tears so beautifully. It's a really, really delicious croissant. So now we're going to make the butter block, or barrage. And all that you do, this is just a quart-sized Ziploc bag. And at this point, this butter has been out for probably an hour or so, and it's rather soft, which is fine. What I'm going to do is just roll this so that it fits this bag. And you want it to be an even thickness. And now this can go into your refrigerator. This has rested for about 20 minutes. What I'm going to do with that is just put this out and roll it into a 10 by 7 inch rectangle. Just make sure it doesn't stick, but you don't need much flour. Remember, whatever you add to this, you're adding to your dough. So as little flour as possible. What it ends up being is basically bread and butter, but it's the best bread and butter you've ever had. And we have 7 by 10, so we're there. Now you can chill this for just a couple of hours if you like, but really the best way to do it is to develop the flavors in your refrigerator overnight. And you can do that at any point. You can even do it when the pastry has been rolled out and where you have your turns done. But I just find it, personally, I just find it easier to stop here. I have this in a pan, one of these little quarter sheet pans. And then I have my little butter block. These are both going into the fridge for 24 hours, and I'll see you tomorrow. Welcome back. So today we get to finish up the croissant, and I can't wait. I just took this out, and it's rather stiff. So I'm going to let this sit out for, it'll probably take about 5 minutes. So the butter has to come down a little bit in temp, and so does the dough. You want them not to be the same temperature, but the same texture. So I'm going to put those off to the side. And while that's resting, I'm going to make a nut butter to put into the croissant. If you're a croissant lover, you probably have had almond croissant and thought it was fabulous. I think this is even a little more special than that, and I make it with pistachio. You can use whatever nut you like, hazelnuts, walnuts, hazelnut mixed with chocolate, anywhere you want to go. But today we're doing pistachio. I have 1 cup, which is 100 grams of pistachio. I'm not skinning them, it's just us, it's fine. No one's ever complained that they weren't skinned, so that's out of the picture. I have 1/2 cup, 100 grams of sugar, and 3 tablespoons of simple syrup. If you don't have simple syrup, it's very easy to make. I have a video and I'll post that. So let's get this going. I'm just going to grind this up. And now I'm going in with 3 tablespoons of simple syrup. 1, 2, that's exactly 3. Whiz this up until it becomes a paste, and you can do this in your blender as well. It'll just take a little longer. And that's it, very simple. And you can see it holds together really well. And I'm going to just put this into plastic wrap. What I'm going to do is just roll this out. And this is going on a sheet pan and into the freezer. And then as we make the croissant, this gets cut into bars and goes into our pastry. Well, now this butter is still chilly, but it's malleable. It doesn't break, and that's exactly what you want. You want it cold, you don't want it to shatter. We have our dough, lightly flour up and down. Any flour that you put on here now, you're going to add to the dough, so just be aware of that. I'm going to roll this out into a rectangle that's 17 inches by 8, which is 43 by 20 centimeters. So you start in the middle, you roll up and then down. And you want even pressure, especially when you introduce the butter. That is absolutely perfect. Going to remove my butter from the packet, put it in 1/2, turn this over, and then you pinch the edges, just go in a little bit like that. And now we're going to do what's called the tourage, and that is where you fold and turn your pastry. So we have this, we've just folded it over, and I'm just going to fold it out again. And this is where it's very important that you keep an even pressure on this. And I like these French rolling pins, meaning there's no handle sticking out, because you can go out like this, and you can feel the pressure better that way, I think. It's handy if you can keep these edges nice and clean. And then this is called a double turn or a book turn. You go up 2/3 of the way, and then 1/3, and you press these edges together. Stretch them out to make them a little straighter, and that's fine. And then fold it again, and that is a book turn. Now you want to work quickly because everything's getting warm and you want to keep it chilly. So I'm going to do a single turn now. I'm rolling this out to 24 by 8. That's 61 by 20 centimeters. Now I'm going to do what is called a single turn. And what that is that you bring your dough up and you fold it like a letter. You fold it into 3 pieces. You're going to go up 1/3 of the way, and then this top part comes down. What you want to do now, after your first single turn, is put it into the refrigerator and let it relax. You can do that for an hour, 2 hours, and come back. Here's the thing though, the butter is going to chill faster than the dough. What I do is I wrap it and put it in the freezer. And the reason for that is that the dough will chill down, but the butter doesn't have time to get cold enough to become brittle. 30 minutes seems perfect, and the dough doesn't fight me. The reason that you want to rest it is to relax the gluten. That just seems to be the perfect answer. So I'm going to wrap this in the plastic and put it in the freezer 30 minutes, and I'll see you after that. So I'm going to do 2 more single folds, which you don't have to watch. You know how to do that. So I'll roll this out, put it in the freezer for another 30-minute rest, and then we'll come back and we'll cut these out and we'll make some croissant. At this point, this dough has rested. I'm going to roll this out to an 18 by 16 piece of dough. And now I'm just going to basically just clean up these edges. They're just a little ragged. And there's different ways you can do this, of course, but what I'm going to do is just fold this over in half. And what I have is 14 inches, which is 38 centimeters. So I'm going to do it this way, 7, and then we have 3.5. And you can just eyeball it from here, but what you do is you go into the middle of these 2 lines. You're just going to be right there. And then from here, you just connect the dots. You're going to have a little piece there that doesn't quite fit. That's okay. And you just make triangles, and then you can use a sharp knife for this, or you can just use a pizza wheel. But now what I've done is made doubles. So these are all of your croissants. So here are all of the croissants. Now from here you have choices. You can just pull this out a little. Using your fingertips, you just roll it up. And there you have one. This little tail should go down on your baking sheet, because if you have it this way, it's going to open up while it's baking. So make sure that that's underneath. Now that was a plain, but remember we have the nut butter, so I'm going to show you how to use that. And all that you need to do here is you can just cut this into strips. I'm going to take these and just gently stretch them out. Stretch them a little wide, and then just take a little piece of this nut butter and then just roll that right into your pastry. What's nice is the nut butter is a total do-ahead, and you can leave that in your freezer for months. But you can also make these and freeze them just like this. Wrap them in plastic, put them in a freezer bag, and then whenever you want a croissant, you just take it out. You can let it sit, and then it will take about 4, maybe 6 hours to rise from a frozen state to get nice and puffy. So for right now, I'm just doing 4 croissants, and the rest of them I'm going to freeze. What I'm going to do is let these rise and double in size, and I'm brushing this with an egg wash. I'm just using an egg white because I don't want these to be a very dark color after they bake. And I find that if you use yolk on something like this, it can be a little too dark for my taste. But you can use a whole egg with a little water. I'll see you in a couple of hours when these are proofed, and we'll go from there. These have been resting and rising, and they look puffy and beautiful. And what I did is I put plastic wrap over them and sort of tented it, if you will, over each of these. You want to keep a draft off of it, and you don't want this wrap to stick. Then one last egg wash. And this one, you have to be very delicate with it because you don't want to deflate this. So just be very gentle. This is going into a 400-degree oven, which is 200 Celsius. After 12 minutes, you take them out, you turn the pan around, and you put them right back in. And if they look like they're browning a little too much, I drop the temp to 375. That's 190 Celsius. I like having the fan on. If you have a fan, use it, because it will help sort of puff them up. And in about 20 minutes or so, these will come out. I'll rest them, and I'll come back and show you what they look like. Well, these took just about 22 minutes exactly, and here's how you know you have a good croissant, is that you hear this crispy, as you tear, you hear crispy shatters fall away. That's really good. These layers happen because the butter melts and then blows the pastry up a little bit. So you get this moist interior. If you've never tried this with the pistachio cream, it's really a treat. It's really delicious. This is so good. I hope you try this recipe. Yes, it takes 2 days, but we don't live in Paris, so how else will you have a croissant? I hope you try this. It's delicious. Thank you so much for watching, and come back for more stuff. Bye, guys.